This is Chris Whitty, sorry, Sir Chris Whitty, because you get a knighthood if you're really, really useless at your job now. So Chris Whitty, who is still our Chief Medical Officer, he wants the government to introduce a fat tax on junk food to cut childhood obesity. We could just tax bad parents, couldn't we? That would be a good idea. He's our top doctor in England. He said children are being set up to live a life that is to live a shorter and unhealthier life through obesity and the diseases it causes. He said there are healthy food deserts in cities where children are growing up exposed only to junk food. And as part of a raft of measures to improve public health, he wants taxes on unhealthy food to help reduce obesity and get people back to work. Will this work, though? Is it desirable? Let's talk to Martin Gower. He's a former NHS Trust chairman. Good morning to you, Martin.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Is this the answer to the solution of childhood obesity?
I don't think so. I mean, it seems that we haven't heard from the Professor of Doom for quite a while, and it gave me a cold chill down my back when I read that name again.
Yeah, why don't we just put masks on the kids so they can't eat the food?
Yeah, that would be good, or sew up their lips, you know.
I mean, that would also prevent all these nasty diseases, you know. I mean, surely.
I mean, the answer to everything at the moment is to tax it, isn't it, really? More tax, but what else can we find now to go... This is going to make poor people actually poorer.
Yeah.
That's the main impact.
It's the same with the minimum alcohol cost in Scotland. All that happened is that people just bought a nicer brand that cost at the minimum price, you know, as opposed to be able to buy cheaper booze, or alcoholics just spent less money on food for their kids. The reality is, I mean, we don't really know what junk food is, because the occasional McDonald's, dreaming of that, the occasional, you know, bit of fried chicken, it ain't going to kill you or cause you cancer or make you obese. It's the range of foods you eat and how much of them and how often.
Of course, and the amount. But I don't agree with the idea that buying all this sort of pre-packed food and delivered food and all the rest is actually cheaper than buying good fresh food and preparing it well.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know, as well as brushing their teeth, I do think children ought to be taught to eat with a knife and fork.
Oh, yes.
You can get slightly less on a fork than you can on a spoon, or indeed holding a burger in your hand or a slice of pizza.
Yeah, and annoyingly doing it at the table instead of everyone sitting around watching Netflix on the telly, which is what a lot of families do. I mean, fundamentally, this is, and it always is, if your kid's fat, I'm afraid it's because you're not a good parent. I know we're not allowed to judge people anymore, but if your kid's unhealthy, you're a bad parent. I'm sorry, that's what I think, and I think we should have more shame. I don't want to be people haranguing the children ever, ever, ever. I don't want abuse or teasing the children, but we should absolutely tell parents off if their child is fat because they're doing a bad job.
Julia, I knew somebody very, very well who worked in schools nursing. The Healthy Child programme. They used to weigh the children at school, and then they used to send letters to the parents saying, you know, that the typical NHS letter, no, not that your children is too fat, of course, but your children's BMI is a little bit too high, you know, a bit of it ought to be, and the abuse they got back at the office for saying, my child is perfectly.
I mean, sometimes, to be fair, sometimes there are kids who I've seen some cases where some kids have perfectly normal bodies and the BMI is not foolproof. But we all know when we see a kid. I mean, until I was about 16, you could see my ribs and all of my friends' ribs. We knew everybody. You'd have one fat kid in the class, everyone else was skinny. Well, we used to call it skinny now. It was a normal weight. You go back and look at TV from 10, 30 years ago. Yes. Everyone was slim. That was the norm. And now a lot of parents have completely normalised their kid being chubby. I mean, 8-year-olds with moobs, for God's sake, and fat tummy. I'm sorry, we need to say, this isn't healthy, it's not normal, you need to do a better job.
Julia, we have children in Orlando, and we go to the parks sometimes, parks, and we see families who are all in mobility scooters. So there's parents, you know, not old parents, you know, parents with children maybe anywhere between 10 and 13.
In mobility scooters.
And the only way they can get to the rides is by going on a mobility scooter.
While holding their
Might
big
be
sort
a-
of 40-litre Coke as well. But this is the thing. Those children, I think those children need to be taken into care. I really do. And then if the parents love them, which I think they do, and they had it explained to them, this is what's going to happen, I think they'd start doing a better job. But, you know, we talk about Sarah Sharif, rather more serious issue, but this is killing your child slowly. What is the solution then if it's not a fat tax?
Well, the solution, as always, I think, is education. And in this case, it's educating parents as much as children. But, you know, the answer to everything isn't what the government does. There needs to be much more of a kind of culture all round the place to encourage people not to eat this sort of food. Putting tax on it isn't the answer. Banning it before the 9 o'clock deadline on television. They don't watch broadcast television anyway, neither the parents nor the children probably. So what needs to happen here is there needs to be a conversation. There needs to be programs like this and other programs on the media.
Come on, there are programs everywhere, every magazine, on the internet, telling you what a healthy diet is, what to do. People know you're not supposed to give your kids... I see, you know, middle-class parents, you know, an awful lot better, perfectly sane themselves, giving their kids a plate of chips as a lunchtime meal on holiday. I don't even care if it's a holiday. That is not a meal for a child. End of.
No, and this problem does breach social levels, doesn't it? I mean, this is not just the poor kids.
No, exactly. But also, the thing is, fat tax, OK, that wouldn't hurt on these sort of foods. It wouldn't hurt someone who only has the occasional takeaway, for instance. But I think that's what when they talk about junk food, that's what they mean, don't they? Yeah. But actually, you know, loads of food that is part of a healthy, balanced diet is high in fat, is high in sugar, is high in salt. I mean, you know, a lot of fish, you know, meats, you know, butter, cheese. These are part of a healthy diet, and yet they would come under this tax, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, they would. I mean, but Julia, my wife and I knew somebody who only ate McDonald's. He ate McDonald's.
I've got to be honest with you, that's
day.
living the dream for me, but...
Probably with a Coca-Cola, you know, with a regular Coke with it as well.
Sounds wonderful, but it's not. But it's not a healthy diet. But my thing is, here's my thing: if someone wants to eat themselves into an early grave, that's entirely their choice, but they don't get to do it to their kids. Martin Gower, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us. Final word from from Philip Ingram.
Well, it's back to good old education, and you know, the Jamie Oliver programme of trying to educate people how to cook was fantastic.
Remember those mums handing the burgers in through the railings to their kids? Yeah. Absolutely shocking, isn't it?